Did you know that gravity doesn't actually pull us down? That might sound counterintuitive at first, but let's dig into 6 bizarre truths today that will completely change your understanding of this fundamental force. For instance, have you ever wondered why astronauts float in space? It's not just because there's no air. The nature of gravity itself is different up there. By the end of this video, you'll know the exact reason 9 out of 10 people get this completely wrong and how to fix it in under a day. Here's a twist that makes the rest of this make sense. Did you ever wonder why astronauts float in space? It's not just because there's no air. Gravity is different up there too. On Earth, gravity seems constant, but it actually varies with the weather. For example, your weight can change by a few pounds depending on whether you're near a mountain or at sea level. And get this, Earth's rotation itself causes a small but measurable effect on how much we weigh. Wait, that's insane. By the end, I'll reveal more mind-bending facts about how we think we understand something so basic. Stick around. By the end, you'll see exactly why.